sharing our stories connects us. Listen and be connected. Join us for the Conversation meeting weekly at the intersection of community and culture. Hosted by Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter. Good afternoon, everyone. This is The Conversation. You're listening to WMNF Tampa 88.5. My name is Mario Nunez, and as always, if it's Wednesday and it's noon, we are thanking you for being there and listening with us. My able partner seated just outside of reach. Introduce yourself once again, sir.
Good afternoon, listeners. It is a beautiful day here in Tampa. The skies are blue.
And you are?
And I am Joe King Carter.
Atta baby, there he
Your
is.
faithful servant.
He sounded a little bit like the great one there, Jackie Gleason. Did I get some of that?
Yeah,
that's
right.
good booze.
Yeah.
We all remember Jackie Gleason back in the 1960s. His show was the Miami Beach audience, the greatest audience in the world. Do you remember that?
The great one.
Yeah, the great one. And he was from, it was the Fontainebleau, I think is where he was broadcasting from. It was a live studio audience, and it was a great Jackie Gleason.
Jackie Gleason.
Is that the first Jackie Gleason mentioned early in the show?
That's going backward in time, my friend.
And Jackie Gleason was a great entertainer. We knew he was a prolific. He loved the Honeymooners. Here's a little tidbit of information for you on the Honeymooners. Ready? Jackie Gleason hated, and I mean hated, to rehearse. He didn't rehearse. Jackie Gleason did not rehearse. You knew that, Joey?
I did know that, actually.
Come on, King. Give me
He
your
did not like rehearsals.
No.
And when he was the co-creator of the Honeymooners, they would meet and rehearse, but he didn't like to rehearse.
Art Connie.
Yes. He had a stand-in that would actually rehearse with them.
Well, we miss his like these days because there was nothing like him, of course, when he played Minnesota Fats in The Hustler. I mean, he could actually handle acoustic as well. So
I had no idea we were going to do a Jackie Gleason bit.
Sometimes we do that. Sometimes
it just happens,
we just go
doesn't it?
down that road, and then we got to pull ourselves back.
There you
go.
go.
As we do each and every week here on the show to start the show, hey, did we miss anything in the news this week?
Oh, the news, really. Oh, it's like a thorn in your side that you have to have, isn't it?
I know. I need an antacid.
Yeah, I said last week, it's the heat. It's the heat of our political landscape, and it's the heat of the atmosphere. And, there are deniers in both camps. So what can you do?
Here. And so as we wrapped up another Copa America, and as we wrapped up another Euros, which is the soccer tournament that just took place, congratulations to both the champions, España, as it were. Also to Argentina, because, this is how it works. I mean, these are the powerhouses in major men's football. We also can give congratulations to Carlos Alcaraz, who won his second Wimbledon back-to-back. I mean, there's a lot of fun things that are happening, too. And thank goodness we can stay indoors and watch them on the TV. We don't have to be outside in the heat.
Yes.
And it's, Joe, it's not just the heat. It's how is it that they say here in Florida? It's not the heat, it's the stupidity. I'm just going to ring a bell on that. Let's get it going, guys. Let's get it going.
It's true.
All right, Joey. So today we are so honored, blessed even, to have a Tampeña of note here in studio with us. She's going to share her story. We're going to take your calls as we get into the conversation with her, but I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, King Carter. King, introduce our lovely, and I mean that with emphasis, our lovely guest today in studio.
Thank you, my brother. Well, in the motto that we use here on The Conversation, which is also a motto for the station, which is we celebrate our differences, but we acknowledge our similarities. And what we do is we bring someone in and we talk about their story, their narrative, and we hope that connects them to the community and the community back. Because community, as I get older, I find is the only thing that's important. Mm-hmm. Today we have with us somebody who has an amazing story, I think. And upon meeting her, I was just sort of taken aback because, number one, before I understood what her professional life has been like, she told me that she has this incredibly connective history to Ybor City and the history of Ybor City, which is sort of something that's very near and dear to my heart. And so she has a lot to tell us and talk about. And so her name is Diana Durango.
I love that.
Hello.
And say hello.
Hello, everybody. What's going on, you guys? What's going on, Tampa?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. She's got her fans out there listening.
Hell yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Did I just get
No,
bleeped out?
no, that's
for that
okay.
one?
FCC allows for that.
There we go.
Yeah. So, but nobody would think of the three of us, you'd be the first one to violate the code. Having said that.
Youth.
Yeah, having said that, what we want to do immediately, because I'm going to give people a little teaser. Among many things that Diane has done in her life, she is an actual producer, a writer, and a film actress, and has been in major production films. So we have kind of a film star that's a Tampeño here.
Tampeña.
And so, Tampeña, correct?
That's right.
And so that's all impressive. But let's hold that carrot in front of you for a moment and go backwards in time.
Yes,
and
sir.
Yeah, okay, is that all right? So I was thinking that maybe what we could do is, here is the idea. You're coming in for an audition and you are playing a role of a woman who has amnesia and has lost her mind.
Okay.
And now you are on the sofa or in the chair with the hypnotist therapist, and they are taking you in regression back in time. And now we are going to go to your family beginnings and your childhood. And action.
How far back are we going? Like the beginning of Ybor?
How far back you want to go?
Give us
Like
the
that
connected.
pit
Tell
bull.
us about your early life in Tampa and your
the
family.
and who you're connected to in our history.
So in our history, I have, I'm related to the Pizzos. My grandmother's side, we're Pizzos. So Tony Pizzo is my grandmother's great uncle, historian. And then on my mom's dad's side, a man named Jose Ramon Sanfeliz is my mother's great grandfather. So he was a very famous historian, and there were all these strikes that were going on. There were revolutions that were going on, and he was actually a president of a lot of these clubs that were revolutionary. Like, he was advocating. The guy never shut up. He was absolutely amazing. He took a lot of photos. There is a huge collection at USF of his photos, and he dedicated it to his really good friend, D.B. McKay, which is really cool.
Wow.
They said that he either buried you, married you, or, tried to translate letters for you, because a lot of people didn't know English and they wouldn't, you needed that translation. And and then he had all of his photos, exposed by Mr. Burgert. So they were really great friends. If you look on the internet, you'll see him sitting down with Mr. Burgert in front of a table, and they're just laughing their butts off at the Burgert studio. So going forward, my family, my grandfather was a fireman. My grandmother ended up going back to school to USF. She went into X-rays. We're all Bulls. I'm a Bull as well. Go Bulls. And then I was born. My mother married a Spanish Colombian man, and that's a whole story in itself. And I was born. I went to Villa Madonna on Columbus Drive. Absolutely wonderful school. My father was a resident in Memorial. It was at Jackson Memorial, Miami. We stayed here. That was during the 90s. Nobody wanted to be in Miami during that time, 80s, 90s. Oh, hell no. That's
Kind of rough times.
Oh, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah, between the Colombians and the Jamaicans.
Oh, just so bad.
And later the Russians.
We're like, we just don't want to go to the mall that day. We don't want to end up dead on the elevator, escalator, whatever the heck it is. Sorry, guys, don't come after me now. So then she said, I'm going to raise you with my mom. And I was raised in Ybor City. And it was, to me, probably the biggest gift of my life, because there's a sense of community in Ybor. And again, all old Ybor families, we all know each other. The Aglianos, the Castellanos, the Pizzos, the Garcias, the Ortizes. All of us know each other, and we're all related somehow. I mean, that's like, oh, that's my cousin from 5 generations back.
We say this with affection and love in our hearts, that back in those times, because Tampa was so small, that when we were growing up, either you knew somebody's cousin, you were somebody's cousin, but you had to be careful who you were kissing on, because they might be your cousin. And tell me that's not the truth.
It is true.
Tampa was not that big.
This is a bad story. This is so bad. I went on a date and I was like, this guy's so great. He went to Yale. He's so wonderful. Oh my God, he's a lawyer. Not here though. He came from out of town, but he has family here. The mother's last name's Lazara. I go on a date with this guy. I kiss this guy and I say, Uncle Nick, my uncle's an attorney. Yeah, Uncle Nick, I was going on a date with this guy, Lazara. He goes, wait, wait. Was it so-and-so? And I'm like, oh, goodness gracious. He goes, yeah, that's like Nani's sixth cousin or something. I'm like, oh, goodness gracious. I'm like, we can't date anymore. I'm so sorry. This is not happening right now.
Validation, King.
Validation.
It's a true
nation.
story.
So that happened. And then I went to the Academy of the Holy Names for high school. That was an experience. God love them, but it was an experience. I learned how to deal with a lot of Hollywood by going to that school, and he gave me some thick skin. And then I went to USF, studied cognitive neuroscience, and then I went to Loyola in New Orleans, went to law school. I decided I was not going to be a lawyer, not going to happen. I walked on to my first set in New Orleans because I skipped a class. Whoops.
To go on audition?
I walked onto a set at the Columns Bar, and I said, I need to do something on the weekends. I will clean gum off of people's shoes. I will hold a boom. I will do anything. They go, you've got some BALS, some cojones. And I was like, oh, goodness gracious. They're like, come on over.
From Ybor City, of course.
Somebody, just like, I'm going to do this. So I went in, and they asked me to be on set, and I was sitting at a table. Forrest Whitaker was serving me tea, and I was on the set of The Butler in New Orleans. And
very,
it just
very cool.
happened.
Yes.
And I came back here, and Florida was kind of dry when it came to movies. And people started doing stuff, and I was distraught. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was like saying no to law, and they're like, just take the bar exam. No, I'm not going to take the bar exam. It's not in my soul. Mm-hmm. And slowly but surely, Renelle Golden had a project with some people out of New York, and they needed an assassin. And I said, oh, okay, I can do that. My uncle had a hangar at the time that was associated with a law firm. And I said, do you guys want to play with some toys? And it was out of the Lakeland Airport where Sun and Fun is. They're like, yeah, we do. And I said, okay, you want to use a helicopter? Yeah. And I'm like, you're going to let me jump out of it with an Uzi in my hand going straight at the camera. Can we do that? They're like, is that the only way that we can use a helicopter? I'm like, yeah, it is. So that was my first stunt that I did. And then people were like, wow, she's really...
BALLS.
Yeah, she has BALLS. And I did it. And then we just started rolling, and I started working with people in New York.
How old were you at that time, Diana?
I was like 28, 29. Oh, my grandmother just died. So at that point, you see death, and you're like... There's nothing to lose, you know?
Right.
I had nothing to lose. So 28, 29, around that age period, and I did it.
Full into womanhood, you're ready to go.
Yeah, I was ready. And then they were like, you're too old. And I'm like, really? I'm too old? Okay, I got this. Helen Mirren's out there, but I'm too old. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And she still looks fabulous.
Oh, she's amazing.
Let's stop for just a moment, because I'm telling you, if I am feeling confused, my concern is part of our audience might be.
Yes.
Not confused, but there's questions I've got.
So many.
And so here's...
Hey, we've only got 60 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
I know, but she's moving very rapidly.
We love that.
She's already in New York.
We love that.
And we were just talking about her family, and suddenly she's in New York.
She's jumping out of helicopters with a
I know
Uzi.
where she's... I'm figuring out who Diana really is here. She's moving fast, and she's got it together. I got it. Real quick.
Yes.
Cognitive neurology?
Cognitive neuroscience.
Neuroscience.
So there was a man...
So you had thought, if I may,
Yes, go
that
ahead.
you were going to become...
a clinical neuropsychologist, which I'm
Okay.
still in that direction. So yeah.
Yes. It's a fascinating field. I'm fascinated by it.
Very,
Yeah.
very much so. We were creating at USF, and they're still doing it. They're creating brain-computer interfaces. So you could be completely paralyzed, and they put you up to an electroencephalogram, and it looks like a bunch of wires coming out of your head.
Mm-hmm.
And they are something called the oddball paradigm, which is like that eureka moment. Ooh, that's what I was thinking. And long story short, you look into a screen. If your letter lights up, your brain goes, ooh, and you're typing out on a computer screen simply with your brain waves.
Amazing.
And they're utilizing that. Now they're marrying it with the engineering department at USF. So robotics now are becoming a part of that.
Of course.
So and then
AI factors in there somewhere.
AI and
Yeah.
that whole neural mapping, and now you come up with quantum computers and enmeshed
Yes.
electrons as well. And I thought about it. I was like, if we have enmeshed electrons, what can we do at that point where things just happen instantaneously with the neural mapping and all that fun stuff? And then we can actually create these systems that connect with Earth and space, and they happen almost instantaneously. So that's where my mind
It's a
goes.
fascinating field, and I'll tell you quickly that if we don't mess this thing up, we are on the verge of technology that some people fear, but in fact will make our lives so much richer.
Correct.
Say nothing for the folks that are suffering from neurological dysfunction.
Oh, there's a myriad of
whether it's-
applications.
Let me just remind everybody, if you'd like to get in on this conversation this afternoon with us, please join us here. Join us here and call us 813-239-9663. You can send us a text 813-433-0885. Always, you can send us an email at which I will read it on the air, dj@wmnf.org. Let me say this before you continue, King. Meeting Diana has been, and we're just getting, we're just wading into those shallow waters. I believe just offshore there's going to be a raging torrent that we're going to get into here pretty soon. But let me just say that she presents as a triple threat, right?
Right.
So she's brilliant. We obviously know that. We've
Right.
seen her video reel, so we know she's a talented actress.
Yes.
And could she be any easier on the eyes? Triple threat.
Well, I'm sure that she's
you.
probably dealing as an actor with a certain kind of typecasting because she's going to get roles I'll never get. That's
Well,
for
but
sure.
she's also going to be jumping out of a helicopter with an Uzi. So, I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's
I
good
don't know.
stuff.
Could she be an
That's
assassin?
good stuff.
Could this face play the face of an assassin?
Okay.
Apparently so.
So before we get back to acting, one other question.
Yes.
Now we're all absorbed by neurology and all of the applications in the world, and we decide that we're going to go to law school.
So it kind of like ran in my family. So they were all advocates and doctors. You're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, a doctor or a lawyer. I'm like, okay, I'll do the lawyer portion because I don't want to look at blood right now. And I was like, we're going to do this. That's how I'm going to gain respect. So I went to law school and I went to New Orleans, very similar to Tampa, by the way.
Tulane?
No, Loyola.
Loyola, okay.
So I'm Catholic. Come
Well,
on.
you've
Sean.
got-
Okay, yes, of course.
You've
I'm
got the
sorry.
wrought iron, you've got the brick,
Yeah,
you've got
yeah.
the Spanish. So
Right.
It's all there. So I went to New Orleans. I went to study law, and really interesting way that they study law down there. And I just said, I was like, I'm not doing this. And my uncle, he was in the middle of a huge case with his partner. It was against GNC, I believe. And they're like, you're not going to win this case. Huge trial. They won. It was all over court TV. And he said to, and I was in the middle of studying for my finals. You study out 2 months before. It's called 3-2-1ing. And he goes, hey, what's going on? Are you good? And I'm like, I am so tired right now. And I thought, okay, I'm going to, once I get out of law school, everything's going to be easy. And he goes, well, you want to be a trial attorney? You're going to do this for the rest of your life. And they give you the statistics as a therapist, because now I'm a therapist, right? The people with the highest rates of divorce, heart attack, all of it, just autoimmune issues, obesity, alcoholism, addiction, they are, God bless you guys, by the way, so thank you so much for representing us. They are fighter pilots, they're trial attorneys, surgeons, dentists killed themselves, suicide.
Right.
So those people, God bless them, because they're doing a service to us. I couldn't do it. I could not responsibly
Stress
do
kills.
that.
High stress kills.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So now you decide, I'm not going to be an attorney.
Correct.
And you end up walking onto the set in New Orleans.
In New Orleans. At
And
the
having
Collins.
Forrest Whitaker apparently serve her tea.
Serve
That's
me
true.
tea.
As
Now-
one does.
now-
As one does.
Now, you did this without any theatrical background?
So I always say that my first role was playing the Virgin Mary when I was 4 at Villa Madonna, and every
Okay.
year since then.
Right.
But my first role ever was with Charlize Theron out of Orlando. I was on the set of Monster, and that's how I found out what method acting was. I'm like, I want to do that. And I didn't know what method acting was. She fascinated me. She won an Oscar for it. 16 years old. I missed school for it.
An amazing
Couldn't
film,
even
by the
detect
way.
that gorgeous woman was hidden in that makeup.
Heck no. My mother was on
Couldn't
set.
even was-
My mother goes, that's her? And I was like, yeah, Mama, that's her.
That's what makeup
But also
does.
an
Yeah.
amazing performance, regardless
Correct.
of her appearance.
Correct.
She gained weight. She was eating potato chips like crazy. And she really went into that trauma of how her mom had to kill her dad to save her life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens with method acting, is that you have to tap into those nasty
Those dark
places.
corners.
Yeah.
Dark corners.
And say hello to them and become friends with them
Mm-hmm.
and live it out. And she did it. I studied a little bit of acting here and there, but my training came later. After I left law school, I spent some time in New York, and I studied at the Actor Studio, at the Lee Strasberg Actor Studio. And that is where a lot of the meat and potatoes came out. That's why there's somebody in here that's amazing, and I respect him with everything. When he sees me, he just kind of I love you. He was like, you just went there. Not a lot of people go there. And I do. I go crazy. I'm a method actor. That's kind of what we do. Everybody's like, are you okay? And I was like, don't say anything. Just let me stay here. Right. Let me hold on to it. Just let me hold on to it, please. So, but yeah, the training came after. And then the roles that were more intense came after. So, yeah.
So then you are, so you being on Monster was before the New Orleans walk-on?
Before New Orleans.
You walk on New Orleans, you come back to Florida, and you go, wait a minute, this isn't...
I walked into New Orleans, and then I also did Hot Tub Time Machine, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and then a good one, Wild Card with Jason Statham, where they go, oh, everybody can leave. 500 people showed up. We were 5 people deep. Everybody can leave. We don't need you anymore. And everybody was angry. And they were like, wait, you, and you. We need you over here. There's some paperwork you didn't sign. Blah, blah, blah.
It's hard being the chosen.
Oh, it's bad. So I walked in. I was signing up to be a dancing dealer. And I said, okay, if they need me naked, I'm not doing this. But I said, what do I wear to this? My boyfriend from law school at the time had cheated on me with some woman in Vegas who was wearing this bustier thing. And I said, I'm going to look just like her. She was a dancing dealer in Vegas. I walked in, I looked just like her. And they go, we need you in the other room. And there's Jason Statham and the guy that's a producer for Mosaic. And he goes, hello. I don't know why. I go, hello, how are you doing right now? I go, just waffling about right now. It's quite lovely. I don't know why I did that. It's quite brilliant. He goes, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Florida. So those are the movies. And then I came back and it was dry. I was lost. It was like a desert land. It was like going from New York to the middle of the desert in Jordan. And it was, yeah.
And I can attest to that because when I moved back home in '99, which is already 25 years ago, it's hard to imagine.
Time flies.
I was having a little. I was on the. I wouldn't say I was ascending, but I was having more and more success. My agency that I was listed with in Dallas was getting me more work. I have an ambiguous look. It certainly
it works.
It can go any which way: Greek, Italian, Spanish, certainly, and. But I didn't quite look Mexicano quite enough, and a lot of the work that was coming out of Dallas at the time was, in that genre. So some of the actors that I would always see on the circuit, the audition circuit, they were getting work, and I knew why I wasn't, and it was very frustrating. But I did get cast early on. I guess I was about 33 to do a Unsolved Mysteries. Robert Stack was, and I was one of the recreators, and the boy that I was cast with, because it was a couple of guys that kidnapped and did some nasty things on the river, the Brazos River back in the 80s. He's gone on to have really, J.D. Evermore. He's really gone on to be in a lot of feature films. He's had a good run, a good successful run. And I thought I was on my way. And then I came back here and I realized, there's nothing here. And you either have to be in Orlando or Miami. There's just nothing here. So everything has been in neutral. And I've been like flotsam and jetsam. I've been just kind of going wherever the current takes me and doing television and doing radio has satisfied.
Bring you on some projects with me, man.
Well, I figure at 65 I can't be the leading man anymore. I'm not taking my shirt off hardly these days.
Sir.
But I would like to once again dip my toes back into those waters.
You're doing nice work here.
Thank you for that. But I will say this.
Yes.
And you can attest to this as well, because, Diana, you said that, at Villa Madonna, when you first had your first starring role, and it kind of gets inside of you. It kind of works on you from your DNA changes.
Yeah.
In kindergarten, I was cast for the Christmas play as the lead boy, a boy and a girl. And then in the second grade, I'll never forget this, there was a production that we put on called The Key to Understanding. And it had something to do with the United Nations, blah, blah, blah. And of course, I got the male lead in that. So, but once you're on
stage. You got bitten by the bug.
Oh, boy. And you're sitting there and your abuela's in the front row and your mom's next to your abuela. And they're looking up at you with those eyes. And you forget your lines. No, you don't forget your lines, but just like, oh, this is so much fun.
And also in a Latino...
Challenging, too.
In a Latino family, it's for me at least, it was very matriarchal. The abuelita, and you mentioned the abuelita, she has say-so. I mean, that goes way...
She's got all the palanca.
The palanca. So she has the palanca and the chancleta to go hit you.
That goes with the palanca.
And the voice, you listen to the abuela, then it's the mom, and the man is the father. Abuelitas are in the corner just drinking their cafecito, smoking their cigar. But they're the voice. So it's almost, I don't know if tell me if this is true. It was the one time where your emotions were heard, right? Where they stopped talking and your emotions were heard, and not only heard, but put in a spotlight, and it was like, whoa, I have a voice.
Validated.
Yeah, you're validated. And it was that.
And you
you're
needed that because you knew that special place in the matriarchy of the family where the abuela sat. If you got her blessing or you got her nod of approval, like, yes, mija, that's for you.
Right.
Then you go in wholehearted.
You're all in.
You're all in.
You're all in. And you also become like the trophy because they're like, ay, mira, look who it is.
Of course.
He
Very
did such
proud
and
of-
such.
yeah.
It's a very special place. It's a very endearing place, too. So, yeah.
So Tampa holds a special place in your heart as it does all of us?
I wanted to move everywhere nonstop. I was like, I'm going to live in New York. I'm going to live in Europe. This and that. I've traveled the world. I mean, honest to God, I've had the ability to travel the world, premiere around the world. And the world is gorgeous. And the people there are gorgeous. But Tampa, there's something about Tampa. And also movies in Tampa, right? We have everything here. We just don't have mountains, but whatever. We'll go to Montana or something to film Yellowstone. But we have a beach. We have ranches. We have country. We have springs. We have sun and fun. We have all this stuff. The heat's a little too much, but that's when you go to the beach.
Of course.
You know, you just go to the beach.
Of course.
And our sand is great. You don't get sand like you do in Clearwater. You don't get, and in Tampa, our culture, we're in the South, but we're not of the South.
Correct.
And there's something that's beautiful here. And not only, we are the melting pot. Everybody is like, oh, the South, and it's this and that, and let's look at the demographics. Sorry, guys, I apologize.
No, we can go there too.
But, yeah.
I mean, I didn't know it was going to be that kind of show.
Was
but we
that
can
a-
definitely
was
go
that
there.
a Southern accent
Yeah, it was
you were
a Southern
doing?
accent.
Hell, I don't know.
I
don't know,
talking like
son,
this.
but all of a sudden we're in Lakeland.
I start talking like this, and it's
I
a
don't know.
mess. But you know, we're not like that here. You know, my family member Jose Ramon Sanfeliz, he helped create Martín Maceo, and he goes, "Wait, you have white, you have black, but what happens to these Afro-Cubans like myself?" He's part
It's a
of
fascinating story
Yeah.
that I've spent a lot of time studying.
and
Yes.
it's like, what do you do? And if you go to Sulphur Springs, God forbid you're any shade of dark. You were not allowed to go to one of those
Right.
dances in
100%.
Sulphur Springs. But here in Ybor City,
Yes.
it was everybody.
Yes.
It was just everybody. It was great.
Well, let me just inject this about that because I think that there are energies that are put in place that create situations that reverberate on through generations and through the atmosphere and through people
Right.
and through the lives of your families and other things. Ybor City was the most ethnically diverse community
Yep.
in the South next to New Orleans. And so that created a situation in which no matter what is said about Ybor City, and there are a lot of people who have mythos about what Ybor City was like, but the truth is that one of the reasons that the Cuban club, the Ciclo Cubano, had to separate their Afro-Cuban membership was because white power outside of Ybor
Had
City
infiltrated.
were not pleased with the kind of mixing they saw, and they instituted and made sure that it was instituted that Jim Crow laws would separate Afro-Cubans from being able to use the bathroom and the water fountain and other things. My point is only this: that Ybor City is a very, very, and of course this is my meme. It is a very special place, and all of the families that came out of this ethnic wellspring that created Tampa, I don't think that you fully appreciate how powerful that's been, how special that's been. We are not Jacksonville or Lakeland or any other place. We are this place that's imbued with all of this kind of diverse energy that came from these kinds of situations you're talking about, where Cubanos and Spaniards and Sicilians and others all sort of mixed together and created these kind of familial situations. And it's having, right here, we're sitting with two people that it's having an impact on your life, Mario, and it's having an impact on your life, Diana. And that's really important stuff.
Let's hear from one of the guests of this show that you're listening to presently. We've got something you need to hear right now.
You're listening to The Conversation with Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter on WMNF 88.5 Tampa.
Thank you, Joe. And
Wow, I like that guy.
He's got a great voice.
What a
Just in
great-
case
yeah.
you're just tuning in right now, you're listening to The Conversation. And today our guest is Miss Diana Durango, and she is wonderful. And we are just, this hour is evaporating on us. Let me dovetail in on the Ybor City conversation real quick, and then we'll go back to Diana because I want to hear about Durango and her Basque origins because I have a Basque story as well. Vasco. Yes to all of that you just mentioned. And I think the reason that it still holds sway and that it still has a direct pull on our hearts is because it's so unique. The history is so unique, and when those cultures start to cross-pollinate, something beautiful happens.
Correct.
We can look at the plight of the cheetah in the wild and realize that you've got to change that genetic pool to make good things happen historically. And back in Ybor City, it's history. The Italians were eating black beans, the Cubans were eating pasta, and everybody was drinking café con leche. Here we go. Right? Am I right?
Right, correct.
Okay. All right.
By the way, more unions in Tampa of Sicilian and Spanish families than anywhere else in
Yeah.
America.
Some of the hardest working people in the world.
Now,
so back to you, King.
Yes. So let's, because I see the time slipping.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Listen, this is part one of a 3-part
Yeah,
series.
we're gonna have
I'm
to do
all
another
about it.
Diana,
Let's
come
do
on
this.
back.
I'm
let's
doing this.
let's talk a little bit, because this is an experience that I don't think, of course, people out there can imagine or know about.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of people have thought, man, I would love to be in a movie.
Yeah.
That would be really cool to be
What's
in a
that
movie. Tell us a story about one of the films that you're most proud of, that you, how your involvement in that was, and if there's anything about that that's special to you.
Oh, they're all special to me. Which
Of
one
course.
can I go over? So the most recent, there are 2 recent ones. We just finished something called Velocity Kings, Ride or Die, produced by Antonio Hernandez. But there was one before that in Texas. It was called The Treacherous Border. Now it's called Echoes of the Border. And it's about everything that is occurring at the border. And I think that the most important projects for me are the ones that I can advocate. I'm advocating because, again, movies give you a platform to have a voice. It's about sex trafficking, and it's about organ buying that I didn't even know. And I was being educated, and I was like seeing.
You always hear those stories.
Oh, it was scary as heck. So I remember I broke my foot right before I got there, actually. And I said, look, you guys, I broke my foot. I went to the doctor and I said, I have stunts that I need to do. I have stuff that I need to do. How can I make this work? He goes, I'll put you in a boot, but you just have to take the boot off, put the boot back on, and do it. I did this with a broken foot.
Wow.
Broken foot. I had gained weight and looked, I don't even know what the heck was going on, but I made it work for me. I made all that feeling of disgust and anxiety and not feeling good inside work for that role.
And what was your role in that film? What was your character?
My character, oh goodness, I'm forgetting her name. Oh my God, I forgot my character's name, but she's the lead supporting actress. She talks like this. She tells people, excuse my French, go to hell, vete pa carajo, coralillo. She's a sex trafficker. And that was hard for me because I was domestically assaulted as well. And I had gone through those things. In Hollywood, there is stuff that does happen like that in Hollywood. And here I am. And as a therapist, seeing patients coming in and having little girls that I know, I said to them, I'm going to go somewhere that it's going to be really hard. Are you okay that I touch you? Because I need to touch them. I said, I'm going to touch your teclas. I'm going to touch your butt because I'm trying to sell you to these people. I said, if you guys need to talk about this, let's talk about this. Their parents were there. That was so hard for me because I had to compartmentalize wanting to cry and die inside because I was the face of that devil that I just want to kill with everything, right? And I became the face of that, which I don't like.
But we need to see the devil, right?
You have to see the devil, and there's a picture, and I will show you. I had to let it out, and I became that which I loathe, and I cried after. I went to the bathroom, and I cried, and I went home. I threw up because it was so repulsive and disgusting, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I did what my mother used to do to me when we were in Colombia because my father's very well off in Colombia, their family. And she goes, I said, Diana, this isn't real life. You got to snap out of it. It was what Leo did with the top, remember, in Inception? I had to literally ground myself to get out of that because it was so real. And not only was it real, we were in Brownsville, Texas, where it does happen.
Oh, yeah.
Where, those things that were happening with cartel members. There were people that were driving by threatening. There were cars that were getting hit. You would see people at the border. Ukrainian women are on the other side of that border. I don't know how they got there. Ukrainian women are on the other side of Mexico just waiting to get in. Little girls and these coyotes that are having these women come over, and the kids are just either they go missing, they're in sex trade, or they end up coming out with marred. And I look and I'm like, how is this possible right now? It was very impactful for me. Very, very, very impactful. So yeah, Sorry.
Well, no, that's fine. Listen, it's all part of the.
And just to put this out there, the director is Fernando Villagomez. The producer is Steve Mendoza, and also Antonio Hernandez is also a producer of that as well. So yes.
Excellent. Listen, if you
Frida's my character.
If you
Sorry.
want Frida, if you want to join the conversation, both literally and figuratively, this afternoon, let me give you that number again. It's 813-433-0885. That's how you can send a text. The number to call us is 813-239-9663. Operators are standing by, and if you'd like to send us an email, please do that as well, dj@wmnf.org. The actor that comes to mind, who is one of the greatest actors of all times, although right now he's on a permanent hiatus. You're not going to see him anymore. Played Abraham Lincoln.
Daniel
Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
He also played in Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
And this is an actor that everybody who's worked with him, like I'm saying this like I've worked with him, that knows him on set, he doesn't go to dinner with people. Mm-mm. He stays in his room. He's studying because he has to be in character. That's his method. He has to be in character the entire shoot. So if it's a 3-week, it's a 12-week shoot, 16-week shoot, good luck getting to know Daniel Day-Lewis.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I have one coming up.
What an actor.
Yeah, that's where I said to people, I said, you guys are going to think I'm nuts. I'm going to start talking like this because I have to be Russian, and I'm a Russian assassin, and I'm going to start talking like this, and, that's just how it needs to be. But and I told people that's because I need to get that accent down, and I need to get those nuances down.
You work with voice coaches in situations like that.
Always.
I mean, these are all people don't realize that. Tiger Woods, when he was at the peak of his game, he had a swing coach. Mm-hmm. Even the greatest athletes have conditioning coaches. They have coaches that will help them just fine tune the slightest bit. And actors, the same thing. I mean, you never stop learning when you're in the business.
And also another thing you're addressing, which we sort of hit on when we had the Commodore. When we had Justin and Kelly in about the emotional state of improvisation, and we talked about the ego or the destruction of the ego. I think a lot of people think that actors must have egos that are out of control. There's obviously an ego relationship. We all have ego. Yeah. But in a strange way,
you got to be confident too, King. I mean, you've got to be confident when you go.
Well, as a young person, I thought about trying to really commit to acting, and the thing is, my ego was not ready to be the person that didn't want it to be about me. As a young man, it was about me. And so there's that. But when you talk about method acting and these things, what comes to my mind is, I don't know how an actor, and I've heard people going back through Hollywood, Spencer Tracy, I just hit the mark and say my lines. But the problem is, how do you act as another person and not be emotionally affected? That's my point.
So that is a part of what I'm trying to study, because I honestly think that actors are traumatized. You have to delve in. The best actors have trauma, and you have to continue digging deep down. And it's just certain lineages of training, right? Mm-hmm. So when you say, let me hit my mark and let me go there, yeah, that's great. But the reason why they call it a part and not a job is because there's a part in there that's just hiding and lurking, and you have to frickin' dig deep and pull it out. So when you are acting a role, I don't call it that. I say that there is, by divine intervention through the audition process, a piece of you that's true, that came out, that marries the piece that's true in the character. And all of a sudden, there's an overlap.
There's that fusion, yeah.
And there's that fusion, and it's like, oh my God, you got it. Somehow, by the grace of God, what you went through, that darkness, is making light through this character. And it's just brilliant. And so you just are marrying, as an actor, you're marrying versions of yourself through script. So there's not a lie. It's not, I'm playing somebody else. Those are pieces of me. Even if that's sex trafficking movie, I'm a angry woman. There's a piece of me that's angry in there. It may have come anger from somewhere else.
Sure.
But she's angry. And there's a piece of me that comes out with that.
King, I would assume that this is why after a shoot, a grueling shoot, whether it's something, the Bourne Legacy, where it's all physical and you're doing all that stunt work, or it's highly emotionally charged role that, afterwards the actors have to take hiatus, man. They got to go away and just kind of
chill.
And I can't imagine what it must be like to be on that A-list. When you mentioned Forrest Whitaker, he's certainly in the upper echelons. But I mean, the Leos, you mentioned him a little while ago, Leo DiCaprio, and that ilk, that stratosphere, that's rarefied air. Those guys, they
Hop.
They get completely absorbed, and then you've got to completely decompress and let all of that out. I personally, for me, it's fascinating. The best actors, in my opinion, are the ones that can meld themselves. Anthony Hopkins comes to mind. They can meld themselves in any role, through makeup, otherwise, through voice articulations, or through just the embodiment of the acting skill, but that you don't see any semblance of another character that they've played. I'll use the antithesis of that, Sly Stallone. Sly Stallone is Rocky doing everything he's ever done.
He's always Rocky.
He's always,
That's what he does.
dream. We're going to play Rocky. So you know what I mean?
Jack Nicholson, the same thing. You always get Jack.
You get the eyebrows, you
Always.
get the eyes, you get the voice. It's Jack. So I'm just, but the ones that when they disappear, and you go, I don't even...
It's a magical thing.
We're
Yes,
the
it is.
sharks.
Jude
It's a
Law
magical
comes
thing.
to mind.
Well-
Jude Law's an incredible actor in that same vein.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So today, whenever I perform in front of people, or whatever it is I'm doing, even when I do history
With your clothes
tours-
on?
Yeah, with my clothes on.
Man,
King, I think we've got a solicitation.
Yes. Even when I do history tours, I have to go home and be quiet for 3 hours.
Right.
Because that energy is so,
Yeah.
for me, it's intense.
You've got to,
Yeah.
it's got to kind of subside and settle.
Your concept about trauma is most interesting. I'd like to pursue that some at some other time.
Yeah.
I think trauma, in fact, I think that we're all experiencing trauma all the time. But actors are probably experiencing something very unique.
And
you
absorbing
guys,
it.
You guys were discussing, unfortunately, the news that we had to,
This
be
past
exposed
Saturday.
to, and we were discussing why. And my thing is, and we've discussed this in my graduate program when I was in graduate school. Why is the world coming to this? And for me, it's trauma. We're all being traumatized. It's literally too much stuff that's going on. Yeah, the phone, how accessible things are. Children are being exposed to information that they're not ready for. They're not ready for a lot of these things. So it's too much information. There's I call it inflammation nation, inflammation news. And there's so much going on. It's hard. You have to, when you look at the news now, you have to be able to decipher it, to siphon it, to see what's right, to see what's wrong. It's like you have to have a PhD to look at the news right now. And
Our
it's too
adrenal
much.
glands are always firing.
Bingo.
Right? Our
Yeah.
adrenal glands are always firing. So you're
Yes.
getting what? Cortisol. How do you release that if you go to sleep and you wake up and you're still stressed out? Now the conversation has gone in a whole different area. But I love this too, because somebody out there is listening going, that's happening to me.
And it's like you're always running from a bear, always running from a damn bear. You're in survival mode. How do you survive?
yeah,
It's true.
fight or flight, right?
Our ancestors, the further back we go, didn't deal with that. You know, they got eaten or they ate something, and that was about it.
And that was it.
Yeah, we are dealing with all of this stress, which is, it comes down to a form of trauma. It comes down to trauma. Let's talk a little bit about, before we get out of here.
I know,
today.
and it's already just evaporating
And
on
by
us.
the
It's
way-
okay, that's okay. Part one.
For those listening to us today, please consider hitting our tip jar. And remember that we're always fundraising at WMNF.
This is
And
the
so-
conversation.
This is the conversation.
And share some of your love with
And
us.
if you've enjoyed this
Please.
conversation, give us a little hit in the tip jar,
Yes.
please. Now, you also have all these other interests, and I can imagine that as an actress, actor, writer, producer, and other things you're doing, that there are moments where you have downtime, so you have your hands in some other things. I noticed on your business card, we're talking about therapy and other things. Let's talk a little bit about that.
The therapy portion.
Sure.
So I finished graduate school, and I'm in that process of getting the licensing or what have you. But looking at therapy, and I'm not downing therapists, but what we call cognitive behavior therapy, what we discussed, like just dialect, just talk therapy. Do you guys know what the effectiveness is of talk therapy? Just talk therapy on its own?
30%.
It's like close. It's like around 65, right?
Oh, okay.
So we have people come in, you talk about trauma, and you could talk to me all you want, but you're going to go out there within 3 days, 4 days, you're going to do the whole thing all over again. Then you're going to come back to me and you're going to spend $150 for therapy. And it's wrong. It's completely wrong. So a portion of that is, and there's a lot of studies out there, there is a whole aspect of health, what we call the 6 pillars of wellness. And I learned that at Harvard, where I ended up getting a lifestyle medicine certificate. But you have to be able to sleep properly. You really need those 7 hours of sleep. Your food, the food that you're putting into your body is causing an inflammatory response. If your body's inflamed, you can come to me all day long, every single day. You are going to have anxiety. You're going to have depression. Why? Because there's a correlation. So I really push that nutrition, sleep. What's your community look like? You know, we have great pickleball courts now on 15th Street. Is it 15th Street?
Yeah, right behind the boys club.
Right there. And pickleball, what are you doing to have a sense of community? What's going on with that? Are you relaxing? What's really happening? And I try as a therapist to make sure that it's not just you telling me what's going on and we can process that, but what does your whole system look like? What does your family look like? Is your family accepting? If not, let's try to utilize what's going on systematically, because you're coming to me with a symptom of a system that's not working.
Dysfunctional, sure.
Right. And I'm going to try to fix all that, and we're going to prioritize. So that's where I'm looking at with therapy. Stress and inflammation are a big issue for me. Cortisol toxicity on the body.
The itis. I mean, everybody, itis is the clinical term for inflammation.
You come in with stress, cortisol toxicity from stress. You will come in, I bet you, hands down, you'll have a cardiac problem, diabetes, obesity, some type of an inflammatory response, rheumatoid arthritis. I can go on and on. And it's just opening up all your genes. And I'm trying to prevent this. If not, we're going to have an entire generation of individuals that are going to have these issues. And Big Pharma is going to love it.
I think we're seeing it now.
Oh,
I think we're seeing it now.
Yeah.
And I think Big Pharma already does love it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy afoot, but maybe I am. King, what do you think? It's the food, stupid. It's the food.
I think
seriously, it is.
I think
it's the food.
I think the medical model and the pharmaceutical model are both certainly do advantage from illness.
Now, listen,
if there was no illness, I suppose they would not be as much in business. So
I'm not saying do not go to La Segunda Central and get your
brought little pastries.
Your quesito. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying don't do that every day.
Yeah.
You know what
Correct.
I mean? Because there are things that you can do. And listen, it's difficult enough. I mean, now we're getting into a little different area, but it's difficult enough to navigate this life.
What's her area?
For any length of time, of course, any length of time without suffering some setbacks and some stressors along the way, as we're discussing. Life does present challenges. But if we make a conscious effort, right? If we make a conscious effort to get after it, to prioritize our health in such a way, and then surround ourselves with people that have the same kind of feelings about life, then that's how you get out. That's how you make it to the end. I mean, my parents are 96 and 94, and I wonder how in the world did they get there? Born in 1928, 1930, with all the challenges along the way, and the smoking and the and all the things that they did.
Right.
Sometimes it's just
genetics. There's no denying what the genetic code does for you. But yes, they probably did not eat as many preservatives growing
no doubt.
up.
I was going to the market every day.
They probably exercised a lot more than
just by walking. Because in Ybor City, you had to walk. My grandfather walked, I don't know, let me see, it's about 14 blocks to get to work towards the end. His last job when he was working at a restaurant on 7th Avenue, he lived on 14th and 28th. What is that? 14 to 15 is one block.
Wow.
15 to 7 is 8 blocks?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's 8 and 9 and then another block. So, 20 blocks a day.
Yeah.
And I remember him walking. The guy he picked him up and put him down. You know what I mean? He wasn't lollygagging.
Right.
He was going to get there and get back.
But looking at it as well, going back to Ybor history, we had community.
Yeah, we did.
You would go to these social clubs. You had the doctor. You had the whatever. Maybe they had therapists back then. I don't know. Maybe they just said just be quiet. But you had places to do stuff. You had the who was Dr. Was it Dr. Garcia, or what's the hospital that was in Ybor that everybody
Gonzalez
Clinic.
La Clínica Gonzalez.
I mean,
Reyes and Gonzalez. Yeah.
You guys knew each other. If somebody was sick, damn well that somebody 5 houses. Oye, Senora Garcia, she's over there sick with her baby, and everybody went to her house.
And the doctor would come to her house.
And the doctor. So
if she couldn't make it to him.
Community. We've lost that community.
Yes.
And not only that, we have community for a younger generation, but it's almost like you get to a certain age and there's no more community. So what happens? We need social clubs for every age group, and that they feel vibrant and everybody talks with each other. We need that. We really, really
Plus,
really need
because
that.
you're discussing this integrated wellness that we need to have, our interpersonal relationships
Yes.
are relationships that are intimate or connected or provide support with not just a husband or a wife or just a family member, but that circle of close people in your life.
Yes.
You need that. And
not behind a telephone, not
can we-
behind
and
not on social media.
social media.
Yeah, right.
And not we can't achieve this in the Matrix either. I mean, we can't have the VF glasses, right? The virtual reality VR glasses. We have to have the tactile
Actual
contact. Yeah,
interaction.
we have to be able to see each other and put the five senses on each other.
So what project are you working on a project now aside from being involved in therapy and coaching and the things you're doing?
So movies, I
Yes.
have a few. So I have there's a project that we might have a part 2. I'm not allowed to talk about that right now.
Uh-oh.
Those things happen in the business.
They do.
You sign
So
those. You sign those
exciting.
agreements.
I have a movie that's coming out that's so weird because I literally got the project before that assassination attempt happened. And suddenly, it's a Sinatra movie from the 1950s. where
Remake?
It's a remake. Very, very similar to, I played the assassin that goes to a house and tries to scope it out to kill, unfortunately, the president. That doesn't happen, by the way, but it's scary. I have that. I have a movie called Ezekiel that is a biblical film out of Dallas. By the way, I have to contact you with Mr. Rodriguez.
And you smiled
Amazing.
when you said that.
Yeah, I'm
Please.
really excited about
Okay,
that one.
all right.
I've been wanting to do a biblical movie for a very, very long time. And with the typecasting, it's like, oh, yeah, you're going to be the sex object. You're a sex icon. It's great. Oops, boobs and blonde hair. Oh, my goodness. Yay. Yeah, let's do that. But to do a biblical film, I don't know, it's special to me. And I get to, change my hair color, put my schmutz on my head and go and say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Praise you, God.
That's a little bit of the Villa Madonna training coming in.
It
There you
is,
go.
right? It's going back to those roots. I have another great movie, Life Lessons, that is with a co-star of mine. He is doing a movie with his daughter. And it's
cool.
His real daughter. And we are traveling from Texas all the way to Missouri while he's teaching his daughter these life lessons. And I was able to write a scene myself that I wrote it years ago and I tweaked it for this movie where, I say I lost my dad, I lost my family members, I lost my fiance, all these things. And I'm in grieving while they're going to grieve at this chapel. And I let it all out. So there's that. And then I have these projects that I can't talk about just yet, but with some really, really big actors like Josh Brolin.
That's a really big folder too. Okay, I'm just going to say it's a really big folder.
And it's out of Europe. There's 3 out of Europe and 2 out of Europe and 1 out of the Middle East.
So have you achieved the level? And this is a legitimate kind of a question for those that are listening outside. Have you achieved the level where now you're being, not necessarily that they're writing scripts for you? That's another stratosphere, but that's the upper echelon. But are they reaching out to you because your body of work gives them an opportunity to know who you are, what you can do, and when there's a role, a casting agent will come and say, "Listen, I think you should be." You should put in for this one, or I think they're going to come after you for this one.
So I was talking to a friend of mine. His name's Dean Zanuck. He's out of Hollywood. He goes, I don't know how you did it. I said, why? And he goes, you haven't done it with an agent. You have no agent. You have no manager. By the way, I am looking for a manager if anybody wants to step up.
Joey, let's get in on that. Come on, King.
But he goes, you didn't do it. And it's all been word of mouth. So it's literally whoever I've worked with, they go, oh my God, we need to work with you. And you always put your best foot forward. So yeah, it is kind of like, look, you're good and we know that you can play different roles and we want to work with you. So
I can see when you're up there on the grand stage 2-3 years from now and you're receiving your award for best actor in a supporting role, female lead, and then you goes, I'm just so grateful. I'd like to thank my manager, I'd like to thank my publicist, I'd like to thank my agent if I only had one. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, because that 10%, that 20%, it's in my pocket.
So these projects that are in the works, now we have a reason to invite you back for a second.
Yes, sir.
yeah.
I'm all about it. And I'd love to hear from people too. Anybody that's going to call in and ask me questions.
We're going to do that and make sure that it's done the right way. And the next time, King, we'll pick a lane and stay, because I don't know. There's so much.
I know there is a lot.
Well,
She gives it. No, but we're just getting to know you now.
This is because
Mr.
Diana. This is because Diana is truly a Renaissance woman.
Thank you.
Very often the word Renaissance is used with a man, and I find that particularly disturbing. It should be Renaissance people.
Merci. Merci,
You
monsieur.
are a Renaissance woman, no
Gracias.
doubt.
So next time we're going to delve into Durango, the last name Durango, which for those of you that have been in Tampa for any length of time and are fans of Highline know that a lot of Highline players came from the region in the Basque Country.
Yes.
And there was a player here called who played under the name of Durango. Diane, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
Diana,
so much.
you're wonderful, and we this
Thank
is
you.
just the
Thank you,
beginning for
Diana.
us.
Thank you.
Just
Thank
the-
you, everybody that's listening. And if you guys can bring in a donation, please, that'd be wonderful to continue upkeeping this wonderful radio station. Please.
And there it is.
There it is.
For everybody that puts this show together each and every week with love in their heart, we want to thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I'm Mario Nunez. That's Joe King Carter, and you're listening to WMNF, Tampa, Florida.